Claire Jensen's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the worn leather handle of the suitcase, its scuffed surface telling tales of many journeys past. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the cracked asphalt of the small town's outskirts, where the old motel stood like a forgotten monument to a bygone era. Its faded sign, once proudly announcing Sunny Haven Motel, now hung crookedly, the bright colors dulled by years of relentless weather. Claire felt a bittersweet pang in her chest, a mixture of hope and uncertainty. As she stepped out of her car, the weight of her heavily pregnant frame reminding her of the new chapter she was about to begin. The motel's exterior wore its age plainly. Peeling paint flaked from the wooden beams, and the windows in many rooms were clouded with dust and grime. A few rusted lawn chairs sat haphazardly on the cracked concrete porch, their cushions sun-bleached and torn. Despite its neglect, the place held a quiet dignity, as if patiently waiting for someone to breathe life back into its tired walls. Claire's heart quickened. This was her decision, one made after months of searching, a leap of faith fueled by the desire to start fresh before her baby arrived. Before we continue, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. And tell me, where are you watching this video from? I love seeing all different people come together for these stories. She had driven hundreds of miles from the city, leaving behind a life tangled with noise, endless deadlines, and the sterile anonymity of apartment living. The pregnancy had been unexpected, but not unwelcome. As the weeks passed, Claire's longing for peace and a place to call her own had deepened. When she stumbled upon the motel's listing, something about it spoke to her. A whisper of sanctuary amid the chaos. Now, standing in front of the faded sign, she inhaled the crisp air, tinged faintly with the scent of wildflowers and distant pine. The motel sat on a narrow stretch of road that curved gently through the countryside, flanked by untamed fields and a scattering of ancient oak trees. The small town behind her was quiet, its residents likely long asleep or busy with their daily routines. Here, she thought, there would be room to breathe, to grow, and to prepare for the life she was about to bring into the world. Claire's hand brushed against the chipped paint of the front door as she pushed it open. A wooden bell tinkled from its hook, protesting the disturbance after years of silence. Inside, the lobby was cloaked in shadows, the fading light filtering through dusty windows. Mismatched furniture stood frozen in time. A cracked leather armchair, a faded floral sofa, and a chipped wooden desk behind which the manager once sat. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like old perfume. She took a tentative step forward, the floorboards creaking beneath her weight. The walls, once painted a cheerful yellow, were now stained and marked, bearing the scars of decades. Yet, despite the decay, there was beauty in the details. The intricate molding along the ceiling, the brass fixtures dulled, but still gleaming softly in the late sunlight. Claire's fingers traced the edge of the counter, feeling the rough grain beneath her skin as a slow wave of determination settled over her. Her eyes moved to the faded carpet runner leading down the hallway toward the rooms. The muted pattern, once vibrant reds and blues, was now a ghostly echo of its former self. The silence was profound, interrupted only by the distant chirp of crickets and the whisper of wind outside. It was a silence that spoke of stories left untold, memories tucked away like forgotten treasures. Claire's gaze wandered to the small bulletin board behind the desk. A few yellowed flyers clung stubbornly to the cork, advertising events and services from years gone by. One flyer, in particular, caught her eye. A handwritten note about a summer festival dated nearly 20 years earlier. She smiled softly, imagining the laughter and music that must have filled these halls long ago before time had dulled their edges. The pregnancy made her movements slower, more deliberate. Each step was measured, careful not to jostle the baby growing within. Yet, beneath the physical caution, lay an emotional urgency. A desire to reclaim this space, to transform it from a relic of neglect into a haven of warmth and welcome. She pictured the rooms filled with light, the soft hum of conversation, the scent of fresh coffee in the mornings. This was more than a building. It was a canvas for new beginnings. Claire moved toward the nearest room door, its paint peeling at the edges. She turned the knob, surprised by the smoothness despite the overall wear. Inside, the room was small and sparse, but the large window framed a breathtaking view of the rolling hills beyond. Sunlight spilled across the cracked linoleum floor, casting long beams that danced with the dust motes in the air. She imagined herself sitting by that window, cradling her newborn, the world quiet and safe. Her thoughts drifted to the life she had left behind. The cramped apartment with its sterile walls, the endless noise of the city streets, the friends and routines that had felt so essential, but now seemed distant. She remembered the moments of doubt and fear that had shadowed her pregnancy, the uncertainty of whether she could do this alone. But standing here, in this forgotten motel, Claire felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. This place, with all its flaws and fractures, held the promise of something different. Something real. She wandered down the hall, pausing to peek into each room. Some were bare, others still held remnants of their past occupants. A threadbare curtain, a broken chair, a cracked mirror. Each item told a fragment of a story, pieces of lives that had passed through this place. Claire felt a connection, a quiet kinship with those unknown souls who had once sought refuge here. Finally, she stepped outside again, the cool evening breeze brushing against her skin. The sun had dipped lower, painting the sky with hues of pink and lavender. Claire leaned against the railing of the porch, her hand resting protectively over her belly. The motel's faded sign creaked gently in the wind, a soft reminder of resilience. In this moment, amidst the quiet decay and the whispering winds, Claire made a silent vow. She would breathe life back into this place. She would make it a home, not only for herself and her child, but for anyone seeking solace, a fresh start, or a little hope. The path ahead was uncertain, the work daunting. But as she stood there watching the stars begin to twinkle above, Claire felt a deep and steady resolve take root. The motel, once a forgotten relic, was about to become a sanctuary. And Claire, with her unborn child nestled safely within, was ready to begin the journey. The first morning at the motel dawned cool and clear, the sunlight filtering softly through the dusty windows and casting gentle beams across the worn floorboards. Claire Jensen stirred awake in the small bedroom she had claimed as her own, the thin curtains fluttering with the breeze that slipped through a cracked window. She lay still for a moment, her hand resting on the swell of her belly, feeling the faint flutter of movement inside. The quiet was both unfamiliar and deeply comforting after years lost in the city's relentless hum. With a careful stretch and a sigh, Claire swung her legs over the edge of the creaky bed and stood, wincing slightly as the weight of her pregnancy shifted. She moved slowly, steadying herself against the chipped wooden dresser, the surface scattered with a few essentials she had brought along: a worn notebook, a small collection of pens, and a photograph of her parents smiling on a sunny day. The room was modest, bare even, but it held a promise of transformation. A blank canvas waiting for her touch. After a simple breakfast prepared on the small camp stove she had brought, toast and tea, Claire wrapped a light shawl around her shoulders and stepped into the hallway. The motel was quiet, the silence punctuated only by the soft creak of floorboards beneath her feet. She moved cautiously down the corridor, her fingers trailing along the faded wallpaper that peeled gently at the edges. The air was thick with dust, stirred by her passage, and the faint scent of aged wood and forgotten memories. Each door she passed held a story, locked away behind layers of neglect. Claire's heart quickened with a mixture of anticipation and unease as she reached the end of the hallway and opened the door to the first room on the left. The hinges groaned softly in protest, revealing a small space that had once been a traveler's refuge. The bed frame sat empty, stripped of linens, but the window overlooked a stretch of wildflowers dancing in the morning breeze. Sunlight flooded the room, illuminating the faded floral pattern on the cracked wallpaper. She stepped inside, her boots stirring a small cloud of dust from the floor. The room was silent except for the distant chirping of birds and the occasional rustle of leaves. Claire closed the door behind her and took a slow breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. This was more than a building. It was a repository of lives and stories, each one etched into the very walls. Driven by a restless curiosity, Claire began to explore the motel's neglected corners. She moved from room to room, each one revealing fragments of the past. In one, a cracked mirror hung crookedly above a dresser, its glass clouded with age. In another, a faded photograph lay tucked under a loose floorboard, a black and white image of a family smiling on a summer day, their faces joyful yet distant. Claire felt a pang of connection, as if she were stepping into the echoes of lives once vibrant and full. In the manager's office, she discovered a small filing cabinet, its drawers stiff with disuse. With some effort, she coaxed one open and found a stack of yellowed papers, receipts, and old letters. Carefully, she sifted through the documents, piecing together a history that had slipped quietly into obscurity. The motel had once been a bustling stopover, a place where weary travelers found rest and sometimes refuge from storms, both literal and metaphorical. A folded newspaper clipping caught her eye. An article about the motel's grand opening decades earlier, complete with photographs of smiling guests and a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Claire's fingers trembled slightly as she traced the faces frozen in time, imagining the laughter and dreams that had once filled these rooms. The contrast between that vibrant past and the current decay was stark, yet it stirred something deep within her, a resolve to breathe life back into these walls. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Claire found herself drawn toward the back of the motel, where a small, overgrown garden struggled to reclaim its space among the cracked pavement. Weeds tangled with wildflowers, and a rusted swing swayed gently in the breeze. She knelt to examine the soil, rich and dark beneath the neglect, and envisioned rows of vegetables, blooming herbs, and colorful blossoms that might one day soften the harsh lines of the building. The exploration stirred a complex web of emotions. There was a heaviness in the silence, a sense of abandonment that weighed on her heart, but also an undeniable beauty in the resilience of this place. Claire felt herself growing tethered to the motel in ways she hadn't anticipated. Each discovery, each whisper of the past, deepened her connection and fueled her determination to restore not only the structure but the spirit it once held. Her thoughts drifted to the child growing inside her, a new life beginning amid the echoes of those who had come before. She imagined holding her baby by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. The world outside transforming just as she hoped the motel would. The anticipation of motherhood mingled with the thrill of possibility, creating a quiet joy that warmed her from within. Moving back inside, Claire paused in the lobby, running her hand along the chipped countertop. She pictured the space filled with warmth, soft lighting, the murmur of conversation, the scent of fresh coffee. It was a vision that seemed both distant and achingly close, a dream waiting to be realized through patient effort and care. As dusk began to settle, she lit a small lantern and carried it through the halls, the flickering light casting playful shadows on the walls. The motel took on a new character in the glow, its imperfections softened by the gentle illumination. Claire felt a surge of hope ripple through her, a promise that this place, much like herself, was ready for a new beginning. That evening, as she settled into bed, the quiet enveloped her like a protective blanket. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of earth and growing things. Claire closed her eyes, her thoughts filled with the stories she had uncovered and the ones yet to be written. The motel was no longer just a building on the edge of town. It was a sanctuary in the making, a place where past and future intertwined. Her dreams that night were vivid, filled with laughter and light, with children running through sunlit hallways and families gathered around tables. She awoke with a renewed sense of purpose, the motel no longer a relic, but a beacon of possibility. The days ahead would be filled with hard work and challenges, but Claire welcomed them with open arms. As the sun rose on this new day, she stepped outside once more, feeling the cool breeze against her skin and the solid ground beneath her feet. The motel stood quietly, waiting for her touch, its stories ready to unfold. And Claire Jensen, carrying the promise of life within her, was ready to listen, to heal, and to create a home where hope could take root and flourish. Days passed in a gentle rhythm as Claire Jensen settled into the slow pulse of life at the motel. Each morning, sunlight spilled through the cracked windows, casting golden light onto the faded walls, and with it came a growing sense of purpose that stirred within her. The motel, once a silent relic of forgotten times, began to reveal its hidden layers as Claire delved deeper into the fragments of its past. One afternoon, as a soft breeze ruffled the tattered curtains in the lobby, Claire sat at the chipped wooden desk where the long-ago manager had once kept records. Spread before her lay a collection of old letters and yellowed newspaper clippings she had found tucked away in the filing cabinet. Carefully, she unfolded each piece, her fingers tracing the faded ink, breathing life into stories that had quietly slipped through the cracks of time. The letters were from various guests and owners, their words a patchwork of hopes, worries, and memories. One letter, penned in elegant cursive, spoke of a young couple who had stayed at the motel during the summer of 1978, seeking refuge from the turmoil of their lives. They wrote of long drives under starry skies, of quiet mornings filled with birdsong, and the solace they found within the motel's walls. Claire felt the weight of their hope, the fragile thread connecting their past to her present. Among the newspaper clippings, she uncovered articles that chronicled the motel's heyday. Vibrant festivals held in the town square, travelers passing through seeking rest, and local families gathering for celebrations. One particularly poignant piece recounted a time when the motel had opened its doors to displaced families after a devastating flood, offering shelter and comfort amid chaos. The words resonated deeply with Claire, echoing her own desire to transform the place into a haven. As the afternoon light waned, Claire rose and moved toward the hallway, her footsteps stirring the dust that lay thick on the floor. She paused outside one of the larger rooms near the end of the corridor, the one she had glimpsed during her first exploration. The door creaked as she pushed it open, revealing a space layered in shadows and light. On the dresser sat an old photo album, its worn cover cracked with age. Drawn by curiosity, Claire lifted the album and opened it carefully. The pages held black and white photographs, smiling faces frozen in time. She traced the image of a family gathered around a picnic table, their expressions bright and carefree. Another photo captured a group of children playing in the garden behind the motel, their laughter almost audible across the decades. The images stirred a warmth in Claire's heart, reminding her that this place had once been alive with joy. Her fingers lingered on a particular photograph of a young mother cradling a newborn, her eyes full of tenderness and hope. Claire's breath caught as she thought of her own unborn child, the silent bond bridging the years. It was as if the motel itself whispered encouragement, urging her forward on this path she had chosen. Motivated by the stories she had uncovered, Claire decided to reach out to the nearby town, hoping to connect with locals who might remember the motel's past. She drove into the heart of the community, the small streets lined with familiar storefronts and the faint scent of fresh bread drifting from a bakery. The townspeople greeted her with cautious smiles and curious glances, intrigued by the newcomer with a heavy belly and a determined gaze. At the town's modest library, Claire found a wealth of information and friendly faces willing to share their memories. An elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson recounted tales of summer evenings when the motel's courtyard had been filled with music and dancing, children chasing fireflies beneath lantern light. Another local, Mr. Harris, spoke of his late parents who had once worked as housekeepers there. Recalling the kindness and community that had flourished within the motel's walls, these conversations painted a vivid picture of the motel's significance. A place that had been more than just lodging, but a cornerstone of the town's social fabric. Claire listened intently, her notebook filling with names, dates, and anecdotes, each one a thread weaving her more tightly into the tapestry of the community. Returning to the motel as dusk settled, Claire felt a renewed sense of connection and responsibility. The stories she gathered were not just relics. They were the foundation upon which she would build her vision. She resolved to honor the memories while breathing new life into the space, ensuring that the motel would once again serve as a refuge for those in need. Back at the motel, Claire spent evenings poring over the letters and clippings, piecing together a timeline that spanned decades. She discovered the names of past owners, families who had poured their hearts into maintaining the motel despite hardships. One particularly moving letter from the 1980s revealed how the owners had struggled to keep the business afloat during economic downturns, yet never lost sight of the warmth and welcome they wished to extend to every guest. As she read, Claire felt herself growing closer to these people she had never met, sharing in their triumphs and sorrows. Their resilience mirrored her own, and the motel's faded walls seemed less like decay and more like the weathered skin of a survivor. One afternoon, while exploring the small manager's office, Claire found a ledger detailing guest stays from years past. The neat handwriting recorded names, dates, and brief notes, a mosaic of lives intersecting within this space. She smiled as she read entries from honeymooners, traveling salesmen, and families on vacation. Each entry was a testament to the motel's role as a crossroads of stories, a place where journeys began and ended. The more Claire uncovered, the more she felt compelled to preserve these histories. She envisioned creating a small archive within the motel, a place where visitors could learn about the lives that had passed through, fostering a sense of continuity and respect. It was a way to honor the past without being bound by it, to acknowledge the motel's roots while planting seeds for the future. As the days grew shorter and the chill of early autumn crept in, Claire found herself waking each morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The motel, once a silent witness to time's passage, was awakening alongside her. With every letter read, every story uncovered, she felt the threads of connection strengthen, weaving her into a living narrative that spanned generations. One evening, as she sat by the window, cradling a warm cup of tea, Claire reflected on how the motel's history had shifted her perspective. The loneliness and uncertainty she had felt upon arrival were giving way to a profound sense of belonging. She was no longer just a woman seeking refuge. She was becoming a caretaker of memories, a guardian of hope. The journey ahead remained uncertain, filled with challenges both practical and emotional. Yet, in the quiet moments between dusk and dawn, Claire found solace in the knowledge that she was part of something larger, a continuum of lives, dreams, and resilience. The motel's past was no longer a distant echo, but a living foundation upon which she could build a future. With the baby growing stronger within her, Claire prepared to face the work ahead with renewed vigor. The stories she had uncovered were gifts, reminders that even in decay, there is beauty. And in silence, a call to listen. The motel was no longer just a forgotten building at the edge of town. It was a beacon waiting to shine once more. And Claire, with her heart full of history and hope, was ready to answer that call. One afternoon, as the sun hung low and golden in the sky, Claire Jensen found herself drawn once again to the far end of the motel's long, creaking hallway. There, behind a door she hadn't dared to open before, lay a mystery that had quietly haunted the building for years. The paint on the door was chipped and faded, and a rusted old padlock hung loosely from the latch, as if forgotten by time itself. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached out, curiosity battling hesitation. With a gentle tug, the padlock fell free, clattering softly to the floor. The door creaked open, revealing a small room cloaked in shadows and dust. The stale air smelled faintly of mildew and forgotten days. Claire stepped inside, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight, and the beam of her flashlight cutting through the gloom. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and unease flooding her senses. The room was cramped and cluttered, filled with remnants of a life abruptly abandoned. A threadbare armchair sat askew in one corner, its upholstery torn and faded. Against the far wall stood a dresser, its drawers partially open, spilling yellowed letters and faded photographs onto the floor. On a small table, a cracked porcelain doll stared blankly ahead, its glass eyes reflecting the dim light. Claire moved slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile items. She knelt to gather the scattered papers, smoothing them gently on the dusty floor. Among them, she found a faded photograph of a mother and child, both smiling softly, their faces marked by warmth and tenderness. The woman's eyes held a depth of love and quiet strength that resonated deeply with Claire, stirring something within her soul. Her fingers trembled as she traced the edges of the photo, the paper fragile beneath her touch. She imagined the lives behind those smiles, the joys, the struggles, the hopes woven into everyday moments now frozen in time. The image felt like a mirror, reflecting her own impending motherhood and the vulnerability that accompanied it. As Claire sifted through the drawer's contents, she uncovered a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon. The handwriting was delicate and precise, the ink faded but still legible. She untied the ribbon carefully, unfolding the first letter. It was addressed to someone named Evelyn, and the words spoke of love, loss, and the desperate hope for a better future. The letters chronicled a family's quiet unraveling. The mother's longing to protect her child from hardships, the father's absence, the small moments of tenderness amidst growing uncertainty. One letter revealed that Evelyn had been forced to leave town abruptly, taking her child with her, leaving behind the motel and a trail of unanswered questions. Claire sat back on her heels, the weight of the story settling heavily around her. She felt a profound connection to Evelyn, a woman she would never meet, but whose struggles echoed her own fears and hopes. The room, once just a forgotten space, now felt sacred, a silent witness to a story of love and loss, courage and survival. The discovery stirred a whirlwind of emotions. Claire's thoughts raced as she considered the parallels between Evelyn's experience and her own journey. The fear of the unknown, the longing for safety, the determination to protect a child at all costs. It was a reminder that beneath the motel's weathered surface lay countless stories waiting to be honored and understood. As twilight deepened, Claire gathered the letters and photographs, placing them carefully into a worn leather satchel she had brought for such discoveries. She paused for a moment, her hand resting on her belly, feeling the steady flutter of life within. The weight of the past mingled with the promise of the future, intertwining in a silent vow to carry forward the legacy of resilience. Leaving the room, Claire locked the door behind her, the padlock clicking softly into place. The motel's shadows seemed to recede, as if acknowledging the respect paid to its secrets. Outside, the sky blazed with the fiery hues of sunset, casting long, warm shadows across the cracked pavement. That evening, as Claire sat by the window with the letters spread before her, she read them by the soft glow of a lantern. The words painted a vivid picture of a woman's courage in the face of hardship, a mother's fierce love, and the painful choices made to protect a child's future. Each letter deepened Claire's understanding of the motel's silent history and the lives it had sheltered. The faded photograph of Evelyn and her child lay beside her, a beacon of hope amid the shadows. Claire traced the image with a gentle finger, feeling a kinship that transcended time. She imagined Evelyn's journey beyond the motel's walls, the challenges she faced, and the strength that carried her forward. Inspired by the discovery, Claire resolved to honor Evelyn's memory. She envisioned creating a small memorial within the motel, a space dedicated to the stories of those who had passed through, a place where visitors could connect with the past and find solace in shared humanity. The night deepened, wrapping the motel in a quiet stillness. Claire's thoughts drifted to the child growing within her, the new life that would soon arrive, carrying its own stories and dreams. The room, once a hidden chamber of loss, now symbolized hope and continuity. As she prepared for bed, Claire felt a renewed sense of purpose. The motel was more than bricks and mortar. It was a living testament to the resilience of those who had come before and those yet to come. The discovery of Evelyn's story had breathed new life into the building's silent walls, illuminating the path forward. In the days that followed, Claire returned often to the locked room, each visit deepening her connection to the past. She cataloged the letters and photographs, preserving them with care. The room became a sanctuary of remembrance, a quiet corner where history and hope intertwined. Through Evelyn's story, Claire found strength. The fears that had once loomed large began to shrink, replaced by a growing confidence in her own journey. The motel, with its secrets and stories, had become a place of healing, a refuge not only for travelers, but for her own heart. The faded photograph remained on the small table by her bedside, a reminder of the enduring power of love and memory. As Claire prepared to welcome her child into the world, she carried Evelyn's story with her, a silent promise to nurture, to protect, and to honor the past as she built a future. Claire sat quietly in the soft glow of the evening lantern, the faded photograph of Evelyn and her child resting gently in her hands. The worn edges of the paper seemed to whisper untold stories, and Claire felt a stirring deep within her, a call to understand the woman who had once sought refuge within these very walls. The letters and photographs had unlocked a door, but questions lingered, pulling her toward the past in search of answers. Driven by a quiet determination, Claire began to piece together Evelyn's story from the fragments she had uncovered. She revisited the small town's library, poring over archives and local records, hoping to find traces of the woman who had vanished so abruptly. The librarian, a kind woman named Marion, assisted her with old directories and census records, their fingers tracing faded ink and brittle pages. "Evelyn Harper," Marion murmured one afternoon, adjusting her glasses. "She lived here with her son, Jacob, nearly 40 years ago. Left town suddenly, didn't she? Folks said she had her reasons, but no one really knew the whole story." Claire's heart quickened at the mention of Jacob's name. She imagined a small boy with wide eyes and a tentative smile, clinging to his mother as she faced the uncertainties of their future. The fragments of Evelyn's letters hinted at hardship, a missing father, whispered threats, a desperate need to protect her child. Claire felt the weight of those struggles pressing across the decades, a silent thread connecting their lives. Determined to learn more, Claire sought out longtime residents who might recall Evelyn and her family. One afternoon, she met with Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman who had shared stories of the motel's vibrant past. Sitting in the cozy warmth of her living room, Mrs. Thompson's eyes glistened with memory. "I remember Evelyn," she said softly. "She was quiet but strong, did everything she could to keep Jacob safe. When things got too heavy, she left without a word, took Jacob and disappeared. Some say she went to start fresh, others think she was running from something." Claire listened intently, savoring each detail. The fragments formed a mosaic of courage and sacrifice, a mother's fierce resolve to shield her child from harm. She felt a kinship with Evelyn, recognizing in her the same fierce love and determination she carried within herself. Back at the motel, Claire spent hours in the small room where she had found Evelyn's letters, reading and rereading the carefully penned words. She began to write her own reflections, capturing the echoes of Evelyn's life alongside her hopes for the future. The act of writing became a bridge between past and present, a way to honor the woman who had left her mark on the place Claire now called home. One afternoon, while arranging the collection of letters and photographs, Claire discovered a faded map tucked between the pages of the photo album. The map detailed the town and its surrounding areas, with a small X marked near a secluded grove of trees just beyond the edge of town. Intrigued, Claire decided to explore the spot, sensing it might hold clues to Evelyn's story. The grove was a quiet sanctuary of towering oaks and whispering leaves, sunlight filtering through the branches to dapples on the forest floor. Claire wandered along a narrow path, her footsteps muffled by moss and fallen leaves. The air was thick with the scent of earth and pine, and the gentle rustle of wildlife stirred around her. Near the center of the grove, Claire found a small clearing where the ground was soft and undisturbed. Here, she noticed signs of a long-forgotten fire pit, its stones blackened by age. Nearby lay remnants of a weathered blanket and a small, rusted tin box partially buried beneath the leaves. With gentle hands, Claire unearthed the box and opened it carefully. Inside, she found a collection of trinkets, a locket, a faded ribbon, and a small leather-bound journal. The journal's pages were yellowed and fragile, the handwriting delicate but clear. As she read, Claire discovered entries penned by Evelyn herself, chronicling moments of fear and hope, despair, and resilience. Evelyn's words painted a vivid picture of a woman grappling with the weight of her circumstances, yet refusing to surrender. She wrote of stolen moments beneath the trees, where she and Jacob found solace from the world's harshness. The journal revealed a mother's unwavering love and an unyielding commitment to protect her child, no matter the cost. Claire felt tears prick at her eyes as she absorbed the raw honesty of Evelyn's voice. The discoveries deepened her connection to the woman, transforming distant history into living memory. She understood now that Evelyn's departure from the motel had been an act of courage, a leap into the unknown, driven by love and necessity. Returning to the motel, Claire placed the journal alongside the letters and photographs, creating a small archive of Evelyn's story. She decided to share this history with the town, envisioning a gathering where neighbors could come together to remember and honor the lives intertwined with the motel's past. In the weeks that followed, Claire organized a modest event in the town hall, inviting residents to share their memories and reflections. The gathering was intimate but filled with warmth, a collective act of remembrance that bridged generations. Stories of Evelyn and Jacob surfaced, each adding depth and nuance to the narrative Claire had uncovered. As the community embraced Evelyn's story, Claire felt a profound sense of healing, not only for herself, but for the town as well. The motel was no longer just a building. It was a living repository of human experience, a place where stories of love, loss, and resilience converged. Throughout this journey, Claire reflected on her own impending motherhood. Evelyn's courage inspired her to face the uncertainties ahead with strength and grace. She understood that while the past held shadows, it also offered light, guidance for those willing to listen. One evening, as Claire sat by the window, the soft glow of the lantern illuminating her growing collection of Evelyn's letters and journal, she felt a deep peace settle within her. The connection between past and present had become a source of strength, a reminder that no journey is taken alone. The motel, with its weathered walls and whispered histories, was transforming. It was becoming a sanctuary not only for travelers, but for stories waiting to be told and lives waiting to be renewed. And in that transformation, Claire found hope, not just for herself and her child, but for all who would come seeking refuge and belonging in the days to come. With the stories of Evelyn and the motel's past settling firmly in her heart, Claire Jensen found herself ready to turn her attention to the present, to the work of restoration. The building, weathered and worn, awaited her touch, its faded walls a canvas beckoning for renewal. The promise of transformation filled her with a mixture of excitement and trepidation as she stepped back into the lobby, determined to honor the memories embedded within while breathing new life into the space. The first morning of restoration dawned crisp and bright, the sun casting a warm glow over the cracked pavement and peeling paint. Claire, dressed in sturdy jeans and a flannel shirt, her belly rounding noticeably as her pregnancy advanced. She moved carefully but purposefully, aware of the delicate balance between her physical limits and the urgency she felt to reclaim the motel from neglect. She began with the lobby, the heart of the building, where generations of travelers had once been welcomed with a smile and a key. Armed with a broom, dustpan, and a bottle of cleaning solution, Claire set to work, sweeping away years of dust and debris. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, their worn surfaces revealing glimpses of the motel's vibrant past beneath layers of grime. As she scrubbed the faded counter, Claire's mind raced with visions of what the space could become. A warm gathering place filled with light and laughter. She imagined cozy chairs arranged near the windows, shelves stocked with books and local crafts, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee inviting weary visitors to rest. The motel's history, rich with stories of refuge and resilience, would be woven into this new chapter. Moving through the corridors, Claire tackled the peeling wallpaper and chipped paint. She carefully peeled away the damaged layers, exposing the raw plaster beneath. Her hands worked steadily, smoothing rough patches and preparing the walls for a fresh coat of paint. The colors she chose, soft creams and gentle blues, were inspired by the morning sky, a nod to hope and renewal. In the evenings, after the day's work was done, Claire sat by the window with a cup of herbal tea, her muscles tired, but her spirit buoyed by progress. The motel's transformation was slow but steady, each repair a step toward reclaiming its dignity. She found solace in the routine, the physical labor grounding her as she prepared for the new life growing within. Local residents began to take notice of the changes. One afternoon, as Claire painted the trim around a window, Mr. Harris, the man who had shared stories of his parents' work at the motel, stopped by with a box of old tools and supplies. His weathered hands and kind eyes spoke of a lifetime spent in the community. "I thought these might come in handy," he said, setting the box down gently. "Some of these belong to my dad. It feels good to see the place coming back to life." Claire smiled, gratitude warming her chest. "Thank you, Mr. Harris. It means a lot to have support from people who know the motel's story." Neighbors began to drop by more frequently, offering help, advice, and company. Some brought homemade meals, others shared memories that enriched Claire's understanding of the motel's place in the community. The isolation she had initially felt began to dissolve, replaced by a growing sense of belonging and shared purpose. Encouraged by the support, Claire turned her attention to the guest rooms. She cleaned and repaired, replacing broken fixtures and patching holes in the walls. The worn furniture was stripped and refinished, revealing the beauty hidden beneath years of wear. She carefully selected linens and curtains with soft patterns, aiming to create spaces that felt both comfortable and welcoming. One room held a particular significance, the one where she had discovered Evelyn's photograph and letters. Claire dedicated extra time to restoring it, painting the walls a gentle sage green and arranging fresh flowers by the window. It became a private sanctuary within the motel, a tribute to the woman whose story had touched her so deeply. Outside, the neglected garden awaited its own revival. Claire knelt in the soft earth, pulling weeds and turning the soil with care. She planted rows of vegetables, herbs, and flowers, envisioning a garden that would nourish both body and soul. The scent of freshly turned earth and growing things filled the air, mingling with the distant song of birds. As the weeks passed, the motel's transformation became a symbol of renewal, not only for Claire, but for the entire community. The once forgotten building began to glow with new energy, its walls whispering promises of welcome and warmth. Claire's vision was unfolding, shaped by the stories she had uncovered and the hands that had joined hers in labor. Physically, pregnancy made the work challenging at times. Claire often felt fatigue settle deep in her bones, and there were moments when the weight of her condition forced her to rest. Yet, even in those quiet pauses, her determination never waned. The motel was becoming more than a project. It was a beacon of hope, a testament to resilience and care. One chilly morning, as frost glittered on the windows, Claire received a visit from Eleanor Whitmore, a retired nurse and midwife from the nearby town. Eleanor had heard of Claire's efforts and wanted to offer her expertise and support. The two women connected instantly, their shared commitment to nurturing life creating a bond that transcended their age difference. Eleanor's presence brought a new dimension to the restoration. She offered practical advice on making the motel safe and comfortable for families, and her gentle encouragement lifted Claire's spirits. Together, they planned spaces where mothers and children could find refuge and care, blending hospitality with compassion. Their partnership blossomed into a friendship rooted in shared purpose. Eleanor's stories of her own past, woven with wisdom and tenderness, inspired Claire as she prepared for motherhood. The motel, once a place of solitude and silence, was now alive with connection and possibility. As spring approached, the garden flourished under Claire's attentive care. Bright blossoms and green leaves burst forth, softening the motel's edges and inviting visitors to linger. The scent of fresh herbs mingled with the earth, a fragrant promise of growth and renewal. One evening, as Claire sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. The journey of restoration had become a journey of healing, for the motel, for the community, and for herself. The building's scars told stories of endurance, and her own story was now intertwined with theirs. The motel was no longer just a forgotten relic. It was a home in waiting, a sanctuary ready to embrace new lives and stories. Claire's hands, worn and steady, had begun to mend not only walls, but hearts. And as her unborn child stirred gently within her, she knew that this place would be a foundation for hope, love, and belonging for years to come. The soft glow of dawn seeped through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns across the worn floorboards of the motel's restored lobby. Claire Jensen sat in the faded armchair by the window, her hands resting gently on the rounded curve of her belly. The quiet morning offered a rare moment of stillness amid the whirlwind of preparation and change. The motel, once a place of silence and shadows, now hummed softly with the promise of new beginnings. In the weeks since the restoration had begun, Claire had found herself navigating not only the physical demands of the work, but the deeper currents of emotion stirred by the journey she was on. The motel's past, with its stories of love, loss, and resilience, had become entwined with her own hopes and fears. Each repaired wall, each fresh coat of paint, felt like a step toward healing, not just for the building, but for herself. As she sipped her tea, Claire's thoughts drifted to the months ahead. Motherhood loomed on the horizon, a vast unknown filled with both excitement and uncertainty. The weight of impending change pressed gently against her, mingling with the memories of Evelyn's letters and the community's embrace. The past and future wove together in a delicate tapestry, fragile but strong. She remembered the quiet strength of the women who had come before her: Evelyn, Eleanor, Mrs. Thompson, each carrying their own burdens and hopes. Their stories had become a source of comfort and guidance, a reminder that she was not alone in this journey. The motel itself seemed to breathe with their presence, a silent witness to the enduring spirit of those who had called it home. Claire's gaze shifted to the small garden outside, where early blossoms stirred in the gentle spring breeze. The plants, nurtured by her careful hands and the earth's quiet patience, symbolized the transformation taking place within her. Growth required time and care, she thought, and sometimes the most profound changes were those that unfolded slowly beneath the surface. The motel's revival had brought unexpected gifts. friendships forged in shared purpose, a deepening connection to the community, and a renewed sense of self. Yet beneath these joys lay the shadow of past losses, moments of doubt, and the ever-present fear of the unknown. Claire acknowledged these feelings without shame, understanding that growth was often accompanied by struggle. One afternoon, as she rested on the porch swing, Eleanor Whitmore joined her, carrying a basket of fresh-baked bread and wildflowers. The two women settled into companionable silence, the weight of their shared experiences binding them together. Eleanor's presence was a balm to Claire's restless spirit, a reminder of the strength found in connection. "You're doing something beautiful here," Eleanor said softly, her eyes reflecting the golden light of sunset. "Not just with the motel, but with your own journey. It's not always easy, but it's worth every step." Claire smiled, gratitude filling her chest. "It feels like I'm carrying so much. The past, the future, the stories I want to honor. Sometimes it's overwhelming." "That's the way of healing," Eleanor replied gently. "We carry the past with us, but we also make space for what's to come. It's a delicate balance, but you're not walking it alone." Their conversation drifted to memories of motherhood, loss, and resilience. Eleanor shared stories of the women she had helped as a midwife, the courage she had witnessed in the face of hardship. Claire listened, absorbing the wisdom woven into each tale, finding strength in the shared human experience. In the days that followed, Claire found herself reflecting more deeply on the motel's transformation and her own. The physical restoration mirrored an inner journey, one of acceptance, hope, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. The motel's walls, once cracked and faded, now stood firm and inviting, much like Claire's own heart. She began to document her thoughts and experiences in a journal, weaving together the stories she had uncovered with her personal reflections. Writing became a way to process the complex emotions swirling within her, a bridge between past and present. The act of putting words to paper brought clarity and peace, grounding her amid the uncertainty. As her due date approached, Claire found solace in the rhythms of daily life at the motel. The routine of tending the garden, welcoming visitors, and caring for the building's needs provided a steady anchor. Each task, no matter how small, reinforced her sense of purpose and connection. One evening, as the stars emerged in a clear sky, Claire sat on the porch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The cool air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, feeling the steady heartbeat within her. A new life intertwined with her own. In that quiet moment, Claire allowed herself to hope. Hope for healing, for love, for the future she was creating not only for herself, but for the child she would soon meet. The motel, with its stories etched into every beam and brick, stood as a testament to resilience and renewal. The journey was far from over. Challenges would come, and the path ahead would hold both joy and sorrow. But Claire felt ready, strengthened by the community around her, the women who had paved the way, and the life growing inside her. As the night deepened, she whispered a silent promise to the future: to honor the past, to nurture the present, and to embrace whatever lay ahead with courage and grace. The motel's light glowed softly in the darkness, a beacon of hope and home. And in the stillness, Claire knew that this was only the beginning. The late afternoon sun cast warm amber hues over the motel's freshly painted porch as Claire Jensen stood watching the horizon, her hands resting protectively over her rounded belly. The gentle breeze stirred the newly planted flowers, carrying with it the faint scent of pine from the distant woods. Life at the motel had blossomed alongside the garden, each day bringing new visitors and stories, weaving Claire deeper into the fabric of the small town. Yet beneath the surface of this growing peace, a ripple of anticipation stirred, one that would soon bring unexpected light into her life. As she turned toward the entrance, Claire caught sight of a figure approaching down the cracked path. The visitor's gait was steady but cautious, carrying an air of both hope and uncertainty. Claire's heart quickened, curiosity mingling with a quiet sense of recognition. The woman's eyes met hers, and in that moment, they shared a connection born of shared histories and unspoken understanding. The woman introduced herself as Grace Harper, a relative of Evelyn, the mother whose story Claire had uncovered months earlier in the dusty room at the end of the motel's hall. Grace's presence was a living bridge to the past, the missing link that had silently hovered just beyond reach. Her voice was soft but firm as she explained that she had come in response to Claire's restoration efforts and the gathering that had been held to honor Evelyn's memory. Grace's eyes glistened as she spoke of her own journey. The search for answers about a family lost to time, the fragments of stories passed down through generations, and the yearning to reconnect with a place that had shaped their lives. She carried a worn leather satchel, inside which lay old letters, photographs, and a small wooden box intricately carved with delicate patterns. Claire invited Grace inside, leading her through the motel's halls that now echoed with the hum of renewal. They settled in the restored lobby, the soft light of a nearby lamp illuminating the artifacts Grace had brought. One by one, she shared the contents of the box: a faded locket containing a tiny portrait, a bundle of letters written in delicate script, and a diary that had belonged to Evelyn herself. As Claire listened, a tapestry of memories unfolded. Stories of love and loss, courage and sacrifice, woven through the lives of women who had faced challenges with quiet strength. Grace's presence breathed new life into the motel's history, filling gaps and answering questions that had lingered in the shadows. Together, they pored over the diary's pages, reading Evelyn's words aloud. The entries revealed moments of tenderness and hardship, the struggle to create a safe haven for her child amid uncertainty. Grace shared anecdotes passed down from family members, adding layers of depth and meaning to the narrative Claire had painstakingly assembled. The meeting stirred a profound sense of closure and healing for both women. For Claire, it was a confirmation that the motel's stories were not just relics, but living threads connecting past and present. For Grace, it was an opportunity to reclaim a part of her heritage, to honor the resilience that had defined her ancestors. In the days that followed, Grace remained at the motel, assisting Claire with ongoing restoration and community outreach. Her skills in genealogy and local history enriched their efforts, and her warm presence brought comfort during the long hours of work. Together, they planned a commemorative exhibit within the motel, a space dedicated to the stories of Evelyn and others who had found refuge there. The town embraced Grace's arrival with open arms. Neighbors who had once shared memories now found a renewed sense of connection, their stories intertwined with the past and the present. The motel became a gathering place not only for travelers, but for a community united by shared history and hope. As Claire's due date approached, the partnership between her and Grace deepened into a friendship rooted in respect and shared purpose. Grace's insights helped Claire prepare for motherhood, offering practical advice and emotional support. Eleanor Whitmore continued to be a steady presence as well, her experience and kindness a balm during moments of uncertainty. One crisp autumn evening, as the wind whispered through the trees and leaves carpeted the ground in shades of gold and rust. Claire felt the first true pangs of labor. Surrounded by the women who had become her chosen family, she faced the moment with a mixture of awe and courage. The motel, once a place of silence and neglect, now echoed with the rhythms of new life. In the small delivery room they had prepared, warmed by soft candlelight and Eleanor's steady hands, Claire welcomed her daughter into the world. The child's cries were a song of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit of the women who had come before. As Claire held her newborn close, Grace and Eleanor stood beside her, their eyes shining with tears and joy. The stories of generations converged in that quiet room, a living legacy unfolding with each breath. In the days that followed, the motel became a sanctuary, not only for Claire's growing family, but for others seeking refuge and renewal. The commemorative exhibit opened to the community, a place where past and present met in shared remembrance. Visitors left notes and mementos, adding their own stories to the tapestry. Claire, exhausted but radiant, often found herself gazing out the window at the garden where the first blooms of spring now flourished. She saw in her daughter's eyes the promise of new beginnings, the continuation of a journey that had begun long before her arrival. The motel's walls, once faded and broken, now stood strong, a beacon of love, resilience, and hope. And as the sun set beyond the hills, casting a warm glow over the land, Claire knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would continue to grow, nurtured by the hearts of those who dared to believe in transformation. The morning sun spilled softly over the horizon, casting a warm golden light across the freshly tended garden that bordered the motel's weathered porch. Claire Jensen stood barefoot on the cool wooden steps, her newborn daughter nestled snugly against her chest in a soft, hand-knitted blanket. The gentle coos and quiet breaths of the infant were a soothing counterpoint to the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by the early spring breeze. Around her, the motel, once a forgotten relic, now thrummed with renewed life, its walls echoing the stories of past and present, woven together by the hands and hearts of those who believed in new beginnings. The transformation of the motel had reached a new chapter, no longer simply a place to rest for weary travelers. It had become a sanctuary for expectant mothers, families in transition, and those seeking refuge from life's uncertainties. Inspired by the stories Claire had uncovered, especially Evelyn's courageous journey, the motel embraced a mission beyond hospitality, a commitment to healing, support, and community. With Grace Harper's help, Claire had formalized the vision. The motel's guest rooms were adapted to suit the needs of women facing crisis pregnancies, offering privacy, comfort, and access to resources. The garden became a communal space for reflection and growth, its beds bursting with herbs, vegetables, and flowers tended by residents and volunteers alike. The lobby, once quiet and empty, now welcomed visitors with soft lighting, shelves of books, and the warm scent of fresh coffee. One afternoon, as Claire supervised the planting of a new row of sunflowers, a group of women gathered in the common room to share their stories. They spoke softly but with strength, their voices weaving a tapestry of resilience and hope. Claire listened, her heart swelling with gratitude and purpose. Each story was a reminder of why she had undertaken this journey, to create a place where vulnerability was met with compassion and healing was possible. The community's response was overwhelming. Donations of goods and time poured in, local businesses offered support, and volunteers arrived eager to contribute. The motel's story spread beyond the town's borders, inspiring others to reimagine spaces of neglect as places of refuge. Claire found herself at the center of a movement fueled by kindness and determination, Recognizing the importance of sustainability, Claire and Grace established partnerships with healthcare providers, counselors, and educators to offer comprehensive support to residents. Workshops on parenting, nutrition, and emotional well-being were held regularly, fostering empowerment and connection. The motel became a beacon not only of shelter, but of education and growth. As the months passed, Claire felt the weight of her roles as a mother, caretaker, and community leader, balanced delicately alongside moments of quiet reflection. The motel's walls bore witness to laughter and tears, beginnings and endings, and the steady bloom of hope. Through it all, Claire remained grounded by the support of Eleanor Whitmore, whose wisdom and nurturing presence continued to illuminate the path forward. One crisp evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Claire sat on the porch with her daughter, now a joyful toddler chasing butterflies in the garden. Eleanor joined them, her eyes sparkling with pride and affection. The three generations, past and present intertwined, shared a peaceful silence, the motel's soft glow a testament to their shared journey. In a gesture of love and trust, Eleanor surprised Claire by presenting the deed to the motel, legally transferring ownership into her hands. The act symbolized more than property. It was a passing of legacy, an affirmation of the motel's future as a sanctuary for those in need. Claire accepted with tears, overwhelmed by the depth of meaning and responsibility. With ownership secured, Claire expanded the motel's mission, establishing it as a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting women facing crisis pregnancies. The facility was named Hope House, a tribute to the resilience embodied by Evelyn, Eleanor, and all who had shaped its story. The community rallied behind the cause, celebrating the motel's rebirth as a symbol of compassion and transformation. 5 years later, the motel stood vibrant and alive. Claire, now a kindergarten teacher, balanced her passion for education with her role as director of Hope House. The nonprofit had grown, offering outreach programs and partnering with other organizations to extend its impact. Eleanor had returned to midwifery, visiting remote communities and sharing her knowledge with new generations. Hope, the little girl who had brought light into Claire's life, embodied the love and support surrounding her. Confident and kind, she often accompanied her mother to Hope House, greeting residents with a warmth that brightened the halls. The garden flourished, a living testament to patience, nurture, and growth. Claire's story, once marked by uncertainty and solitude, had blossomed into one of connection and purpose. She began writing a book to share their journey, hoping to inspire others to see the power of kindness and community in transforming lives. The narrative honored the motel's past while celebrating the beautiful new beginnings it had fostered. As spring returned, filling the garden with blooms and promise, Claire stood on the porch, watching hope play among the flowers. The motel, once silent and forgotten, now sang with the vibrant chorus of life and love. The journey was ongoing, filled with challenges and triumphs, but Claire faced it with unwavering hope. The story of the motel and its people was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the profound impact of care, and the possibility that even the most difficult beginnings could lead to beautiful new chapters. In this sanctuary of hope, lives were healed, dreams nurtured, and futures rewritten. Spring had settled softly over the hills surrounding the motel, now lovingly known as Hope House, transforming the once neglected grounds into a vibrant sanctuary bursting with life. Claire Jensen stood on the porch, the gentle breeze tugging at her shawl as she watched her daughter, Hope, chase butterflies among the blooming wildflowers. The garden was alive with color. Sunflowers stood tall, lavender swayed gently, and rows of vegetables promised nourishment for the seasons ahead. It was a scene of quiet triumph, a symbol of the journey that had brought them here. Inside the motel, the rooms hummed with activity. Mothers-to-be gathered in the common room, their voices mingling with soft laughter and the occasional cry of a newborn. The space was warm and inviting, filled with the aroma of fresh bread and the comforting scent of herbs from the kitchen garden. Shelves lined with books and crafts created a homey atmosphere, a stark contrast to the building's earlier days of neglect. Claire moved gracefully from group to group, her presence steady and reassuring. She had become more than the motel's owner. She was a beacon of hope and strength for the women who sought refuge here. Her own journey through pregnancy and motherhood lent her a deep empathy, and her vision had transformed this place into a haven where stories of hardship could be met with compassion and healing. As the afternoon sun filtered through the lace curtains, Claire settled into a quiet corner to pen the final chapters of her book, a testament to the motel's transformation and the lives it had touched. Her words flowed freely, interweaving the histories of Evelyn, Eleanor, and the countless women who had found solace within these walls. The narrative was more than a memoir. It was a celebration of resilience, community, and the power of kindness. Hope, now a spirited 5-year-old, bounded into the room, her eyes shining with curiosity and joy. She clutched a small bouquet of freshly picked flowers, offering them to Claire with a bright smile. "For you, Mama," she said, her voice filled with innocence and love. Claire smiled, accepting the gift and pulling Hope into a warm embrace. In that moment, surrounded by the soft hum of life and love, she felt the full circle of their journey, a testament to healing and new beginnings. Later that evening, as stars twinkled overhead and the world hushed into peaceful quiet, Claire stepped outside to the porch. The gentle glow of lanterns illuminated the garden, casting dancing shadows among the blooms. She breathed deeply, savoring the cool night air and the profound sense of fulfillment that settled over her. The motel, once forgotten and forlorn, now stood as a beacon of hope and sanctuary. It was a place where past and present converged, a living testament to the strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of community support. The stories of those who had come before were etched into every beam and brick, their legacies carried forward by Claire and all who called Hope House home. As she looked toward the horizon, Claire whispered a silent promise to continue nurturing this sanctuary, to honor the journeys of every woman who walked through its doors, and to kindle hope in the hearts of those still searching for refuge. The journey was ongoing, ever evolving, but rooted in a foundation of love and resilience. And in that enduring light, Claire found peace, purpose, and the unshakable belief that even the most difficult beginnings could lead to beautiful new stories yet to be told.